Let this whole situation be a warning for all creators out there. Stay away from multi-channel networks. You don't need them. It's not in your best interest. You can trust me on this. As I'm sure you all know by now, Machinima, one of the better known multi-channel networks here on YouTube, is no more. The company had been bought out by Fullscreen Media, and in what I assume is some kind of rebranding situation, they decided to pull all of the content off of the channel. Now, this is a channel with 12 million subscribers. Obviously, these people didn't all join yesterday. This is a lot of legacy content, the creators of which likely don't have backups for that anymore, which likely means that all of that has been wiped clean. It's gone now, and there's little the creators can do, because that's kind of what happens when you join an MCN. You kind of lose control over your own property in a way. And I gotta say, as somebody who's been on YouTube since the very beginning, my channel, my Brazilian channel here on YouTube, was started on 2005 or 6, and I started creating videos regularly here back in 2008, so I've seen a lot in this industry, if you can call it that. And I remember when MCNs first hit the scene. Mind you, before multi-channel networks were a thing, Machinima meant something else. Machinima was basically the art, if you will, of taking in-game graphics in a game like Garry's Mod, for instance, and creating a little animation out of that. They did that a lot with Halo, remember Red vs. Blue? That's what Machinima actually means, in case you didn't know. It's animation made with a game engine. Anyway, when I started creating content for YouTube, nobody expected to be able to make money off of this. It was very grassroots. We didn't have all of these companies pouring money into it, companies springing forth due to YouTube. It was just a bunch of creators making stuff that they enjoyed. The scene on YouTube was very, very different, and it didn't take very long for companies to offer these deals to creators. So what they were pitching is this. It was very much the way I look at it, and I know this is not a perfect comparison, but it was kind of like a YouTube union, if you will, or rather several competing unions. This was around the time when AdSense extended to YouTube channels. Originally, AdSense was just for websites. When money started being created due to YouTube, that's when these multi-channel networks started showing up. Now, for most people back then, we weren't making a lot of money. Even today, we don't make that much money, but back then it was even less than what we make today. You're talking about like a couple of bucks a month. So with these channels, they positioned themselves as, we're going to offer you support, and some of the things they promised were royalty-free music. We are going to help you with copyright disputes. Some of them promised creators that they would help you, they would coach you, they would help grow your audience, they would help creators come together and do collabs, all of those things. They promised you a lot of things that in theory would help your channel grow. In reality, and this is something that every creator who's ever been a part of a multi-channel network will tell you, they actually did very little of the things they promised people. And as audiences started to grow, so did revenue, and now that little chunk of money that MCNs were getting out of creators, now it's a little bit more substantial, because it's one thing if they're getting, I don't know, like 20% of your 10 bucks a month. But if you're making 100 times that, now that's a bigger chunk of your paycheck. And that's one story you're going to hear every single time MCNs come up. People got signed up for them with all of these promises of support and helping you get brand deals. Every day I log onto my Gmail and I see a whole bunch of invites from all of these MCNs that you likely know, and all of these recruiters say the same thing. They notice your channel, they notice you're growing your audience, they see areas where you could improve, where they can help you. I remember when around 6 to 7 years ago, the idea of being signed up with an MCN was kind of like if you're a struggling artist, say a musician, and a record label wants to sign you, because that's kind of what we thought the relationship was. You made it big if an MCN wants to sign you. There was this idea that now they're gonna take you to a larger audience, they're gonna help you gain more revenue, get more fans. It was exciting to be invited, and in fact, in the beginning, they weren't signing up just about everybody. It seemed like they were a little more selective with the people they were signing back in those days. And I remember looking at the Brazilian YouTube space, because that's where I worked for most of my career. I would see so-and-so got signed with this or that multi-channel network, and there was this idea, this image that, wow, they made it big now. Like, there's this company who wants you to sign a contract. They want to essentially buy your content in a way. I remember there was some excitement in those days. ways about the whole getting signed by MCNs. And I remember exactly when that tide turned. I had a meeting, somebody from one of these MCNs, a big one, which I'd rather not name. I had a buddy who was working with them, and we had this Skype meeting. And he was like, you know, I'm looking at your channel, I see that you're growing, I love the content you're creating, I've always talked about tech and gaming and all of these things. And they said, we want to bring you into our portfolio. And I said, well, that sounds amazing. I finally made it after all of this time creating content essentially for free. And this now can become a career. I can pay my bills off of this. It was very exciting. And then when he got into, like, this is how much you're going to have to, this is the cut that we're taking. And I remember what they offered, I think it was something like 30%, which sounded quite a bit. And all of the things they offered me were like, they offered like, oh, we're gonna help you collab with other creators. I've never been much for doing collabs, not because I don't like interacting with my fellow creators, it's just that I'm horrible with deadlines. I'm horrible with, like, I gotta shoot this by this date and then I gotta edit by this date. I'm terrible, and I just don't want to put people in that spot where they're waiting on my video to finish theirs, or they give me their footage, or they come to my place to shoot content and it takes me forever to finally put it out. I just didn't want to put people in that position. So everything they offered either seemed too good to be true when they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna hook you up with all of these brands and you're going to be able to create content for them and all that. We're going to hook you up with all of these resources for creating videos, like royalty-free music. And that, I thought that was the thing that I thought was really odd, because it's so easy to find royalty-free music on the internet. I thought it was very odd that they were throwing that in there like it's a plus, like I can't find that stuff myself. There was zero value to that, and the fact that they even offer that made it seem to me like they're underestimating the intelligence of people they're pitching this business plan to. So none of it made a lot of sense to me. They're not offering stuff that I value, and the whole thing about brand deals sounded a little too good to be true, and 30% of whatever I make here, sure, at the time wasn't much, but I don't want to be on the hook with them and sign a contract. So I said, I'm gonna think about this a little bit more. I never got back to them, and I think at the time they were already pitching this to a lot of people, so the guy, the recruiter, never really got back to me. I kind of since lost touch with the guy. And this was around the time when I started getting a whole bunch of emails. And like I said, to this day, if I go on my Gmail and I look up network or recruitment or anything like that on the search bar, a whole bunch of these emails from all of these networks that I'm sure have reached out to you as well crop up, and they all say kind of the same thing. And that was the other thing that made me realize that this can't be a good deal. It's kind of like it's kind of like a pyramid scheme. As a rule of thumb, if people are going out of their way to recruit you to something, it's probably better for them than it is for you. This is the whole thing with multi-level marketing schemes or pyramid schemes. People are desperate to recruit whoever they can. So when I started getting all of these emails, I don't even respond to them anymore. I don't like the idea of people making a cut off of the things that I create because they're giving me free music that I can use, like because they can help me connect with other creators. If this is something I want to do, I can just do on my own. They just don't add that much value to what I create. And there's so many, this is around the time, like a few months after that is when we started hearing all of these horror stories, because around the time when they tried to recruit me for a multi-channel network, obviously a lot of the people took the deal, and it wasn't long before we started hearing these accounts of these companies not really following through with these things. Like, I say this to every single creator out there: don't sign with a multi-channel network. Do not. It doesn't matter what they offer you. It's not in your best interest. Keep all of your money. Find your own royalty-free music, or if you want to have one theme song to all your videos, just go on a website that sells licenses to music and just buy one. They're not that expensive. If you're going to just be using the one, that's what I did here, it's not in your best interest. And this whole thing with Machinima, it goes to show that you could even lose all of your work. You could lose all you created when these higher ups decide that they're selling to a different company. You have no say whatsoever in that. You know, I get so many emails because I put my email at the bottom there for people who want to reach out for business, or if you need some help, or if you want to just talk to me over email. I love to respond to the emails that I get from my subscribers here. I find it a privilege that you want to talk to me so much that you actually typed up an email. But then I get all these emails from MCNs. I should just put a little thing down there in the description. I'm not going to sign up with your MCN. Don't even bother me, because you're going to be wasting wasting both our time. Like, you know what's the best thing I've ever heard about an MCN? The absolute best thing I've ever heard? Their cut isn't that much. That's like the best thing. Like, it's only, somebody told me that they have an agreement with their MCN where they have to pay 10% of what they make. I'd rather keep the 100%. But anyway, that's how I feel. What do you think? Are you with an MCN and maybe you have the other side of this, you had a great experience with them, you would recommend signing up with an MCN? Let me know in the comments below, because I'm actually curious. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.